First-time auto enthusiast, this one's for you. Hertz Audio brings European design and technology to you at an affordable price. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the Hertz HCP line of amplifiers that boast innovation, character, and tradition, all merged into one hell of an amplifier lineup, so stay with us. What's up, I'm Josh with Breakers Stereo and Performance. Welcome to the YouTube channel that reviews, demos, and goes over the best in aftermarket audio accessories like car audio, suspension, performance, and more, because we don't drop stock. And if you're like us, where stock just doesn't cut it, then join the Breakers Upgrade Nation by subscribing to this channel. The objective of the HCP project lies in the name of these amplifiers: Hertz Compact Power. The Hertz design team put all of their knowledge and experience to work to come up with the best solution to meet the needs of first-time enthusiasts. Now, due to the uses of both D and AB class circuits, small sizes have been attained. Hertz Compact Power is a project that was created to simplify what is usually complicated. Even the most complex audio systems become simple to install with the HCP line of amplifiers. Now, the Hertz team has mastered yet another challenge: developing entry-level items without sacrificing quality, all while adhering to Hertz brand's customary standards. So now you know a little about how this line came about. For the rest of the video, we'll go over some of the design elements that this line has. Then we'll go over each model available along with their exact specs to see if these amplifiers will work for your quest to build your perfect car audio system. As a side note, these amplifiers are not newly designed, but have been in the Hertz lineup for several years now. Now, if you're not familiar with hi-fi car audio, amplifiers and speakers are not changed every single year. But these amps are still current for the 2022 lineup, and there has not been any announcement for change. So without further ado, let's take a look at these amplifiers. First off, these amps appear sleek and have a minimalist look to them. What stands out to me is the heat sinks, which are crafted from extruded aluminum, a material unmatched for lightness and heat dissipation. To keep the size minimum, the power transistors are placed between the PCB and the top of the heatsink where the heat is gathered. The built-up heat is then directed to the heatsink on the wings along the side of the amplifier. On the 4 and 5 channel amps, the front end section features a complete and crossover system, providing full system design flexibility with or without external processors or passive crossovers. So the high pass crossover goes up to 3200 Hertz. So if you are bi-amping your front components, then you can use the crossovers within the amp instead of using the passive crossovers that come with the components. Now, as a side note, bi-amping your front components gives you much more control over your front stage, allowing for separate adjustment between the tweeter and mid-range. When bi-amping components, you have the ability to adjust the tweeter beyond using the attenuation settings within the crossovers of the component set. Now, this can make all the difference in the world when setting up your front stage to your likings. The overall crossover range on the multi-channel amps are 50 Hz up to 3200 Hz at 12 dB per octave, with the exception of the HCP2, which has a high-pass filter set at 80 Hz and a low-pass variable filter between 50 and 500 Hz. Now, the low-pass filter range on the one-channel amps are between 50 Hz and 250 Hz, which is a 24 dB per octave slope. They also come with a selectable subsonic filter set at 25 Hz, also with a 24 dB slope. In addition to the low-level RCA inputs all these amps have, they also have high-level inputs as well, perfect when integrating to OEM head units. Both high and low inputs have a balanced circuitry that ensures good rejection of electromagnetic interference, common in in-car environments, aka engine noise, resulting in reduction of engine noise. Now, the speaker inputs are equipped with ART, automatic remote turn-on, synchronizing the amplifiers on-off according to the operational status of the source. This eliminates the need for a remote turn-on, which is generally not used in OEM systems. So the ART circuitry ensures the amplifiers turn on and off with no delays, eliminating annoying on and off pop as well. For the 4-channel amps, there is an RCA output that can be used to add a subwoofer amplifier. If you're using an OEM head unit, this comes in handy. You can high-level input into the 4-channel and then jump over an RCA to the bass amplifier. Now on the monoblock amps and the 2-channel, there also is an RCA output that you can use to add an amp. Now this output has a variable high-pass filter between 50 and 250 Hertz at a 12 dB octave, giving you some flexibility when you're designing your system. More specifically, the high-pass preamp outputs provides the ability to create a bandpass on the front woofer. D-class circuits are used in the monoblock HCP1D, the 4-channel HCP4D, and the 5-channel HCP5D. Okay, on to the lineup. Now this lineup includes 8 amplifiers total, 3 4-channels, 2 monoblocks, 2 2-channels, and 1 5-channel. So let's start with the 4 channels. But before that, let's talk about the chassis used for this amp lineup. Now the 5-channel uses a 13.5-inch chassis, and the 12.5 and 8.5-inch chassis are used between the remaining amplifiers, all measuring the same width at 7.38 and the height at 1.97. Now back to the 4-channel amps. The biggest 4-channel amp in this lineup is the HCP4DK. This uses the 12.5-inch chassis. When using the CEA 2006 A rating, this amplifier produces 110 watts per channel at 4 ohms with less than 1% distortion. Now the THD rating is 0.03 at 100 Hertz at 4 ohms, and the bandwidth is between 10 Hertz and 35,000 Hertz. For a 4-channel, this amp has a lot of power. So if your interior speakers need lots of power, this is a great amp to go with. Next, the HCP4D. This very small D-class amp uses the 8.5-inch chassis. The CEA 2006 A ratings on this amp will produce 70 watts per channel at 4 ohms with less than 1% distortion. The THD rating is 0.02, 100 Hertz at 4 ohms, and the bandwidth is extremely large at 10 Hertz all the way up to an impressive 60,000 Hertz. One of my favorite 4-channel amplifiers, not only for the size and output, but also for its warm sound quality. And finally, the HCP4. This is a AB amp that is much larger and uses the 12.5-inch chassis, but this is priced considerably less than the HCP4. Current retail is $299, and when using the CEA 2006 A rating, this amplifier produces 50 watts per channel at 4 ohms at less than 1% distortion. The total harmonic distortion rating is 0.01, so it's very low, at 100 Hertz at 4 ohms, and the bandwidth is between 10 Hertz and 45,000 Hertz. Very clean power and perfect for a set of entry-level components or coaxials rated at 50 watts RMS or less. Now the 5-channel amp is the HCP5D. This is a full D-class amplifier and uses the 13.5-inch chassis. The 2006 CEA rating is 50 watts times 4 and 150 watts times 1 into 4 ohms at less than 1% distortion. So you'll want to load the 5th channel down to 2 ohms to get the full 330 watts RMS. Now the THD is 0.02 and the bandwidth for the 4 channels are 10 Hertz all the way up to 50,000 Hertz. Pretty high. And the sub is 10 Hertz up to 500 Hertz. Now this is a great amplifier to run a full system with a single subwoofer. On to the 2-channel amps, starting with the HCP2X. Now this is a 2-channel AB amp that uses the 12.5-inch chassis. The CEA rating is 100 watts times 2 into less than 1% distortion at 4 ohms. The THD is 0.03 and the bandwidth is 10 Hertz all the way up to 65,000 Hertz. All right, now on to the HCP2. Now this also is an AB amp and uses the 8.5-inch chassis. CEA rating is 50 watts times 2 with less than 1% distortion, and the THD is very low at 0.01, with the frequency range between 10 Hertz all the way up to 65,000 Hertz as well. Okay, finally on to the monoblock D-class amplifiers. The HCP1D uses the 8.5-inch chassis. The CEA rating is 300 watts times 1 at 4 ohms with less than 1% distortion. But you'll want to load this thing down to 2 ohms to get the full 700 watts RMS out of it. Now the THD is 0.2 and the frequency range is 10 Hertz all the way up to 22,000 Hertz. This small amp does well with a set of moderately rated dual 2 ohm subs wired in series parallel, or a higher power handling dual 4-ohm single subwoofer wired in parallel. Okay, and finally there is an HCP1DK. This uses a 12.5-inch chassis and the CE rating is 600 watts times 1 at 4 ohms with less than 1% distortion. Now you want to load this thing down to 2 ohms to get the 1240 watts RMS out of it. The THD is 0.25% with a frequency range between 10 Hertz and 500 Hertz. This is a great amp to go with if you need lots of power and is 2 ohm stable. So most D-class amps are going to be 1 ohm stable. So if your final impedance needs to be 2 ohms, then both of these amps are a good choice. This amp lineup is very versatile and Hertz thought through with a lot of detail on how they could design amps to work in many different applications. And although I appreciate the fact that they did design monoblock amps to give out the most power at 2 ohms, there have been situations where I needed the amp to be 1 ohm stable instead. But that's more of a shop issue in regards to having the correct impedance in stock at that particular moment. But if you're shopping online, just make sure you get the correct impedance woofers to end up at 2 ohms as the final impedance to get the maximum power out of those 2 monoblock amplifiers. But beyond that, this amplifier line is solid. Designed by engineers in Italy, these amps have lived up to the company's slogan, technology and art of sound, bringing you hi-fi sound quality in a simple and attractive looking amplifier. If you're interested in any of these amps, we will leave links in the description below, taking you directly to each product page. Now remember, we do have financing available. Simply add to cart, pick a financing option, get approved, and we'll send your gear out to you. Also, if you need a new set of speakers to match up with these amplifiers, make sure to check out our video on the Hertz Milli Pro speaker. Check out the link right here that'll take you directly to that video. Okay, that's gonna do it. My name is Josh with Breakers Stereo and Performance. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.